Yeah. So hold that back.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Together We Are One. We are super excited about you joining us today for this topic. The month of June is all about marriage. And today we have some amazing guest speakers, and we're going to go around. As you know, I am Michelle.
I'm Briggitte.
Rhasheen.
Mira, Barbara, and I'm Esi.
And together
We are one.
One.
We are one, one, one. He is really one, one here.
One by myself. Pray for me.
So, I am going to, I feel like that light is like so on me. So this month, we thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. We know you have a very busy schedule between the family and the ministry and everything else. And we appreciate you coming and taking the time to join us because marriage is such, I don't think we talk enough about marriage, right? And we don't talk about the things before we get married or while we're married or what happens, how can we keep this marriage strong? And so we're just gonna, it's just like, it's too
bright. Are we bright?
Good. How's that?
a little bit better.
Yeah. That's fine.
So we want you to continue to share and invite others. As you know, this topic, our Together We Are One, it's all about being real, raw, and transparent. It's about educating, encouraging, and just equipping one another, right? Because we all need to be helping each other. And together, we're one. Together, we can help each other, encourage each other, learn from each other. And that's what this is all about. And marriage is a topic that no one really prepares you. There's no book that can tell you, this is what marriage is supposed to look like. Or, what happens, are you prepared to get married? Why did you get married? And so, how long have the two of you been married?
21 years.
Bishop, you don't look happy when you said that.
21 years.
Yeah.
21 years.
Going on 22 next year.
So you've been 21 years, and how many children you have together?
7.
You have 7 altogether. Now, when you first met each other, how was that like before you got married?
It was a roller coaster ride. Bishop was a handful. I'm sure he feels like I was too.
Praise the Lord.
And I think it was a little bit more complicated because children were already involved. You know what I mean? Like, well, his son, we was already like a homemade family, so we didn't really get a
Like when we
chance to
first met. You talking?
right.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, like
chaotic.
yeah.
So you already had a son.
Yeah,
And
I
how old
was a
was
single
he?
father when I met Briggitte. So she was, when I first met Briggitte, my son was still with his mother in Virginia. And then I went and got him. And then me and Briggitte, not too long after that, had went on our first date, I think. So I was pretty much a single father when I met her.
Yeah, we were kids. We were young. I was 18. Or, 17 and a half.
She lied.
Wow.
We don't have this conversation on TV.
Yeah.
You said you told him you were 18?
I told him that I was 18.
Wow.
Because I was,
Yes,
I was
this is what
17 and a half.
How old was he?
I was
21.
Okay.
Right. So, and then 9 months after we met, I got pregnant with Debbie. So it was.
Yeah, we weren't in the church when we met each other. So,
right.
I was kind of borderline, still in the streets at that time.
Yeah, and that's why it was kind of chaotic and complicated. Yeah. But then I got saved right after I had my daughter, or like right before I had my daughter. I was like 7 months pregnant, and I didn't even know what was crazy. But I'm Dominican, so in our culture, if you have someone, your baby father, that's kind of like your husband.
Right.
So in my head, I thought that I was like, it wasn't a sin to fornicate because this was my baby father. So I was in a Bible study and the truth was revealed.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm fornicating.
So convicted.
I was so convicted because like the truth was revealed. So after that, he had gotten saved right after Debbie was born, and then we got married when she was a year and a half.
I was still fornicating.
It's better to marry than to burn. So then after that, you know, we didn't really start learning each other and like really growing together till Genesis.
And she was what? Not child number what?
3.
So you know, you go through these ups and downs,
Right.
you go through these
Phases.
roller coasters, and you know, from the moment of where you first meet until the moment to where you get married, you know, and then you come into marriage with a lot of baggage a lot of
Right.
times. So
Right.
I don't think people really talk about that.
Right,
We
right,
talk- yeah,
not enough
we
about
we walk into marriage with baggage, especially in this day and age where a lot of people are or have been in situations where virginity really is not
Valued.
the culture that we
Right.
walk in and we live in
Yeah.
nowadays. Most
Yeah.
people are coming into relationships and marriages in
Already-
relationships already broken,
Yep.
already been sexually active
Yeah.
and been challenged in that area because they gave what was precious to them away,
Exactly.
and it was, you know, tossed to the side. We gave their pearls to swine.
Mhm.
Other ways, we don't really think about this for men
No.
as much. We think about this for women
Mhm.
often, but what I've really been real heavy talking to men about is really understanding like what you have is just as important. Hold on, ladies, if not more important, because you are the seed giver. You know what I mean? And so, you know, at one point in time, for men, it was, you know, what you have in between your legs, we consider the family jewels. It's the value. It's what's going to carry on our line,
Right.
our heritage.
Yeah.
It's where kings and queens are really made from.
Mhm.
Is in your loins. And so you have to be careful where you make your deposit.
Like soul ties, right?
Right.
Right.
But not just soul ties alone, but where you legitimately make your deposit. If I'm at if I have money in my pocket and I want to take it somewhere, I want to make sure that I'm saving it in the most secure place. You know, I'm not going to go and put it underneath the drug addict's mattress for them to find it because I know that it's going to be gone. I want to make sure that I'm securing it in a place that is going to be valued, it's going to be taken care of, it's going to bring back some form of interest because it's valuable to me.
Yeah.
When we talk about our children, it's the same dynamic because that's more precious to me than my money or my jewels or my diamonds or whatever I have. So when I'm thinking about making that deposit, I need to be able to make that deposit into something or someone that's going to raise the value of that child in the godly manner. And so you know, it's very important for us as men to begin to realize before it's too late that where you make your deposit at, there is a return on it. You know, I have a lot of you men always talk about, oh, you know, I want to be a father, but my child's mother is giving me all this hell and all this, you know, all these challenges that we're going through. But bro, that's where you made your deposit at. And then you left where you made the deposit at, and now you kind of reaping the interest that comes along with the chaos that came along with that. You're going to be reaping that interest for a minimum of 18, but really it's a lifetime of stuff that you're bringing forward. And so when I came into my relationship with my wife, I didn't realize my brokenness, you know, that I was dealing with,
And my brokenness.
and her brokenness she was doing from all the deposits that were made from us and in us.
Right,
You know what I mean? And so these are major things that we walked into our relationship with, not yet being healed from.
Right.
And so, you know, we step into these marriages and these challenges, and then we carry that stuff with us into the marriage. And the thing about church, I'm gonna use this as a terminology, churchdom, right? Is that we teach when you get married, you know, you get married and all that stuff is gonna, you know, is gonna kind of disappear. And it doesn't disappear.
Right.
It's still there. You know what I mean? And it follows you, and you're challenged with that, and you find yourself slipping and falling into same patterns. And so when, you know, we, like we said, we wasn't married when Elijah and Debbie came into the picture, but when Genesis came, we named Genesis because we had came to this place where we decided we wanted new beginnings.
Right.
Oh,
I was just gonna.
And, yeah, so
Right.
Genesis,
So you got the question answered.
yeah, so Genesis was the shift. She was the shift of our relationship. She wasn't the fixer of the relationship. The fix of the relationship was God, but making the decision to press through and push on and work on and not give up on what we know God called us to walk into. So this was our new beginning.
Yeah, like our marriage is totally not traditional at all. It took a lot of twists and turns, but it is an example of God's grace and His mercy and restoration. And there was a lot of
there's layers upon layers.
a lot of layers and things that we've learned and places that we're in now is still like is ongoing. It's not something like, oh, I've arrived. No, that's another layer that we need to address. Right.
It's constant.
Yeah.
The Bible says, even when we talk about our walk with Christ, it says that we're transformed by the renewing of our mind.
Right.
And so that renewing, that ing means continuous.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't say renewed.
That's a
It
good one.
It doesn't say renewed.
It's the process.
ing.
Right. So we wake up to new mercies daily, right? Because we need those new mercies. We need that new grace, right? Because this is an ongoing thing. And where we make the mistake at is we teach a lie, not purposely,
Right.
but we teach a lie. You're saved and you're renewed. That's not the Bible. We're saved and we're striving for a higher calling, and we're moving for the renewing. This is every day. But where we mess up is that when we come into church, we tell people you're renewed. So now they got to put on this facade, like, oh yeah, yep, I got to stay saved, and
I got it all together.
I got it all
Play church.
Yeah, because I don't know who to talk to.
Act the part, but not really rooted in the fruit of.
When I was in the streets, I was in the streets heavy, right? So when I went to my boys in the streets and told them I was getting saved, and I wasn't smoking weed no more, and I wasn't drinking,
and they were like,
and they was like, oh, you? And I was like, yeah, me. What do you mean? You don't think I can do it? And they like, all right, we'll see. But when they said we'll see, it cut them off from me.
Yeah.
Like the conversations that I could have with them before, I couldn't have, because I was feeling like if I wouldn't have this conversation, it's not even the fact of commonality, but if I had this conversation, I'd be letting God down because I wasn't the example that I should be for them. And then I couldn't go to the older men in the church, because to me they had it all together, which we all knew at the end of the day it wasn't the truth, but at that moment I feel like they had it all together. So I didn't feel like I can relate and connect with them. So I couldn't go back to my homeboys because I didn't want to look like a fool in front of them, and then I couldn't go to the elders because I didn't feel like I was on their level. So I was stuck in this vacuum where I had nobody to go to. So who do I talk to about my marriage when it's broken? Who do I talk to about my children when I don't feel like I'm being a proper dad? Who do I talk to when I want to go back to the streets and I want to go back and do the things that we need to do? Because what we was taught was when you got saved, you was renewed because you were a new creature. But nobody ever told us that new creature was still building, and layers were being peeled off and going forward. So,
and that's his individual process within a marriage. So then when you add the layer of marriage and the individual process that I was going through, it just it just causes a lot of disconnect. But thanking God that because we had him in our own personal life in the center, the things that I was praying to the Lord about, he was dealing with him in his heart about, and then the same thing with him, with me. And then when it came time for us to walk in forgiveness, for us to walk in grace and be open with each other, then God would meet us both together, because that's part of the journey within a marriage, which is,
Now, would you say, it's really great that we're talking about this, because it's so true. I remember when I gave my life to Christ, the same thing happened to me. I always had this huge crowd of, there was like 35 of us going out to dance salsa every weekend, And when I gave my life to Christ, it was just like, I mean, friends and family, they were like, And so, but I wanted to please God. I wanted to be holier than thou. Because I felt like And now I know it was like a spirit of religion, just like
Right,
beating
right.
myself every time I did something
Right.
foolish or still of the flesh. But even when I was like brand new, but in my heart, I had said yes to God and I meant it. So I was all in. But I struggled with a lot of stuff, right? And so with that being said, when I met my husband, he was a Christian, but as many of you know, maybe you don't know, but he was in the streets too. He was a drug dealer. He was in prison. He was a cocaine addict, an alcoholic. And so although he was saved and he was clean, he still had a lot of anger and hurt and bitterness.
Right.
Yes. And so in my eyes, I couldn't understand, dude, you're saved. You should be happy.
Right.
You should have it all together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until God dealt with my heart and said, you haven't been through what he's been through.
Right.
Good or bad, you had your father in your house. He did it.
Right.
Good or bad, you were loved. He wasn't.
Right.
His walk was different.
His walk was completely different. And God had to deal with me and really pull me apart, rip me, strip me in every area, because God is like, where's your grace and your mercy for your husband?
Right.
This is the gift that I gave you. What are you doing with it?
Right.
And so, because he was ordained by God, right? So we struggled. And so, I listened to the two of you. At what point, did you, because I'm sure that it was bumping heads. How long did it take you before you were like, okay, let's not do this anymore? Or when, because for my husband and I, the first 5 years were, the first 10 years were hell. But the first 5 years, it was hell times 3.
Right.
As the first 6 months, I wanted a divorce.
Right.
The year after, he wanted a divorce.
Right.
And but because I had committed to God and my vow was to God,
Right.
I was like, no. I just kept crying and praying on my knees because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Again,
So,
I had no family to go to. I had no friends. I had nobody. It was just me and God.
Right.
And so that's what. So at five years of being married, I was like, God, I'm done. You can have him. And he said, well, thank you, because you cannot change him and he cannot change him. Only I can do it. Right now I'm working with you.
Right.
And so there was a little turn. At 10 years, there was another turn. And then to God be the glory, at 15 years last year, there was such an amazing shift in our lives. But the first 10 years were really, I mean, the first 5 years were pure hell. The whole 10 years, actually. But the first 5 years, it was like, if we could like battle it out, I think we would have. But because no matter what, we still have God. We went to church together. We prayed, even though we didn't talk to each other, but we prayed. I was continuously reading on the Bible, continuously on my knees, continuously praying. At what point for you do you think that you felt like there was some shift?
So the first year was a disaster. And we moved to Connecticut because we said, listen, we had separated, right? For like 3 weeks, a month or so. And I went back to my mom's house, and then you
already had your daughter?
Yeah. I took my daughter with me, and we were already married.
Oh, okay.
So, but then we sat down on the bed because I had came home to get some stuff. And he was sitting there, and then we just started talking. Like, he has softened, and I just felt like there was something happening. And then and then he sat down and he says, we gotta go. Like, I'm like, well, I'm going to Georgia. I'm all packed. I'm ready, because I was gonna go to Georgia, and he said, there's too many people in our marriage. On your side and on my side, and we need to just start fresh. So we started fresh we picked the state on the map. It was Connecticut, and we came up here.
Wow.
No jobs.
Did you know anyone here?
No. Well, my husband had his cousin, but
my cousin moved to New York when we moved to Connecticut.
And then my aunt actually was living in Hartford, but I didn't even know she lived in Connecticut till we moved here. And we left, packed the U-Haul, came. We didn't have any jobs. We just had our income tax money. We paid up the rent for 3 months and kind of lived that off and started like finding jobs. And then that was the first shift, right? But then when we came here, you know, there was just a lot of unresolved things between us that was kind of still creeping up. And then that's when Genesis came in 2003. And we're like, you know, because we were always striving for better, but we just didn't know how to get there. You know what I mean? So then in 2005 was like the end of it all, where it was like, we're either all the way in or we're not. And that was when we opened up our church in 2005. And I had a problem with the fact that I barely trusted him as a husband, and now I got to trust you as my pastor. So I was a very rebellious first lady. And I just
can't even picture that.
I used to gossip. I used to just not be because I wasn't in a good place. You understand?
Yeah.
And he had went to Pastor Bob. He used to be our pastor. And he says, you know, this woman's losing her mind.
He would say.
He said, he went to him. He's like, you know, I'm just going to get a divorce. This isn't working out. And he says, well, if you're going to do that, you can't handle what's going on at home. Take the sign off your church and shut it down, because this is your ministry. Right. And then he always used to throw in my face like, oh, I'm leaving you. And I used to be all scared because I was like his form of control. And then that day he came home and I'm like, just leave. So, and when he saw that I was that disconnected, I'm telling you, the Lord
I was still leaving.
Whatever.
I was still leaving though.
But we had such an intense conversation, like transparency just came out of both of us. I mean, we cried and it was beautiful. And from that point, we've been building and very connected.
Is that like 5 years, would you say?
And at 5 years, that was the 5 year point.
So we have a saying in a lot of our, you know, ministry stuff, right? Like the first 5 years of your marriage, you know, your anniversaries come up. You're not really celebrating your marriage. You're celebrating the fact that you haven't killed each other.
Yeah.
It's very difficult bringing two people together to form one. It's really tough, especially when you have kids all the trauma, and then you're dealing with the kids and all that stuff that's coming. It's a marriage. It's such a lot of work. People don't understand it. It's I don't care how long you're married for. I don't care if it's 1 year. I don't care if it's 15 years. I don't care if it's 20 years, 21 years. Marriage is constant work.
Right.
And so what we realized is as we grew, it was so easy to grow apart. You know what I mean? She's in school. I'm trying to formulate businesses, you know, and we start making these moves, and what begins to take place is we forget about each other a little bit. And we don't realize that she's growing. That what we started the marriage at is not where we are at this point right now.
And we were kids. And you gotta evolve, you know?
Yeah.
And
so we started using this terminology of, listen, we need to sit down, we need to start to redefine our marriage on a regular basis. You know, she's graduating. She has, you know, she already had associates when we got married, but now she has a bachelor's, and then she has a master's, and then she, you know, has credentials, and so she's grown as a human, and then I'm growing on my side as well too. But we want to make sure we're growing like this and not growing like this. So there has to come times in your marriage where you just constantly just come back and say, okay, well, let's redefine what we got. What's our goals now? We've achieved this. We've achieved that. What's going on? Those first 5 years, you don't learn that. Those first 5 years, you still trying to be an individual. The first 10 years, 15 years, you trying to be an individual, especially when you're young.
Marriage.
You're trying to find you. You know what I mean? Like I know for sure, you know, those first 5 years, I had no idea who I was. You know? And so even when I went to my pastor, when we was, you know, going through the trials that we were going through, you know, I was like, brother, I'm out. Like, you know, we're going. You know, this is it. And he's just like, all right, well, no problem. He didn't even argue with me. He's like, okay, no problem. What I want you to do, I want you to go and just, you know, go down the North Street, because that's where our church was at the time. Just take the sign off the door and keep it going. I said, why would I take
Pastor Bob said that?
Yeah, Pastor Bob. I said, why would I take the sign off the door? Like, you know, I'm building this church. You know what I mean? He's like, well, we can't minister to your house, then you have to minister to the people.
Mm-hmm.
That is powerful.
And I was still not connected with that word. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna continue to do it. I left his office very upset.
Yeah.
And then I got to my house, and there was another pastor who was there who was going through something, and his wife had cheated on him that week. I did not know this. I did know that there was police at the house because he caught her coming, but it's more stuff behind that story. But when he came out and he had made a commitment to stay where, this was right as I'm getting ready to walk in my house to go pack my stuff to leave out. And so I went upstairs, and when I realized, he said something. He said, I said, yo, so how'd you do it? Why if you call her like that, why y'all still together? And he said, because I realized that there was parts in my marriage that I didn't do to make her happy, that she would have to go outside of my marriage.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like, oh, whoa, that was like an uppercut. Like, oh, okay, wait, let me get this right. I mean, wait, now I need to ask myself if I'm doing everything that's solid for me.
Yeah.
And I begin to realize, the Bible tells us, it says, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, to the point that he gave his life for it. He died for it. And you really think about what the church did to Jesus. Is bugged out. They spit on him, they talked about him, they gossiped about him, they put thorns on his head, they mocked him, they crucified him, they stuck him in his side, they all of these things. They fed him vinegar when he was thirsty. Just all of these things that they did to him that was so horrible, but he was still willing to stay and stick it out. So when I first got married, it was a theologian on my block, and he asked me that question. He asked me this question. He said, do you realize that the Bible never tells the wife to love her husband?
To respect.
Yeah.
I was like, what you mean? Love the? He didn't say so. So I asked him. He said, but it did tell the husband to love the wife. And I said, well, why? He said, I can't tell you that. He said, you'll learn that. And it was that day that it all started coming. Yeah, it just went off. And the reason being is because we love differently.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? We love differently. A husband wants to know from his wife that you trust me, that you respect me, that you know that we're secure. The closest thing we get to love your husband is older women teach the younger women how to love their husband.
In the book of Titus,
right?
Yeah.
So that's what it says. So for me, that showed me that love for a woman was really a learned behavior to her husband. And we can run around, we can go all the way, we can deal with all these emotions that we talk about, but true love and true commitment is a learned reality for a woman towards a husband. Because what a husband's love is different from a woman's love. A woman wants to know that you have passion for her, that you're affectionate toward her, that she's valuable to you, so forth and so on. A man isn't, not all men, I'm not going to speak for all men, but most men, I want to know that you're secure when you're with me. I want to know that you trust these decisions that we're making for this house, and that I'm never going to do anything. I may do stuff that's stupid, and I may make mistakes, but I'll never do anything purposely to put you in a place of danger or to hurt you. And I realized at that moment that I did not give my wife that, because of the fact that I would constantly threaten, like, yo, I'll be out. You know what I mean? Women outnumber men 5-1. You
want to know something? My husband would say all the time that he was gonna leave.
Yeah.
He goes, why don't we just get divorced? We should just get divorced.
It's easy, especially when you're dealing with men who have trauma issues, or women who have trauma issues. I would move every 3 months, so getting up and changing the location or changing the situation is nothing to me. So for me to go in the house, and my wife is different. She's been living in the same house up from the day she was born until the day that we got married. Then she moving with me, and every 3 years she's moving, right? Because I'm always trying to jump to the next and get better and so forth and so on. And I'm dragging her along on this journey with me.
Kids.
But with the kid, but she's in a place where she needs security, and I didn't give her that. Right. So that day when I went upstairs, she had already told me you can go. So I was coming back to pack my stuff. But after that situation took place, I went upstairs and I looked at her and I said, I'm never leaving. Not only am I never leaving, but I'm never going to tell you again that I'm leaving. You would have to leave me.
Wow.
at that moment, it broke. Like you can see, I can see in her that it broke because it's all she really desired was to know that she was secure with me and I was secure with her. I'm not going anywhere. This is it. This is for life. This is it. I don't care what stupid things I do. I don't care what stupid things you do. And we both done some stupid things. I'm not going anywhere.
How about, so what went through your mind when he said that?
I never heard that before. So for me, I was like, what? I was baffled. And then I got really emotional because that's a level of intimacy that we just never shared.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm listening, right? And so you had a shift at 5 years. I had a shift at 5 years. It's been said that 5 is grace, right?
Right.
And at 5 years is when God dealt with my heart about, are you loving the husband? And he brought me to love in action in Romans 12. And then he brought me to 1 Corinthians 13.
Right.
And it talks about what love is supposed to look like. And the Lord said, is this how you're loving your, do you know what this love is like? I said, yeah, you love me like that. My mother loves me like that. He goes, do you love like that? I said, I love my daughter like that. And the Lord said, are you loving your husband like this?
Right.
And I was like, no.
Right.
So then my daughter walked in and I asked her, I said, sit down. And I had her read the scripture. And she goes, what? Am I not loving you like this?
Right.
And I said, yeah. Am I loving you like this? She goes, yeah. I said, are we loving Chumi like this?
Right.
And her mouth was the same as mine. No. So at that moment, I called my husband out of the room because we were not talking. We were like so done, so sick and tired of each other. And we held hands and he's looking at us like, what's going on here? And my daughter and I apologized to him.
Right.
And I said, I want you to know I'm very sorry for not honoring you and respecting you as my husband. I'm sorry that, I wasn't valuing you. I appreciate that you get up every day, that you work for us, that you take care of us, because we do become bitter. I remember before I was always peaceful, I had patience, and then I became like resentful. And I was like you said, I became the same way. I would always, my first thought was, I just want to rip his face. I am reading the Bible, I'm tithing, I'm going to church. But when he would talk, the things that would come out of his mouth, I just wanted to, and I would say, I want to rip your face and we're choke you. Because that goes to show when you say it takes a long time before you get to save. But and so and then after that moment, when we took his hands and we apologized to him, we said, we're sorry for not honoring you, for not respecting you, for not giving you your place as the husband and the head of this house and the priest. Now he's looking at like, who is this woman? Who is this woman? So shortly, and I hugged him, and then the next day he came to me and he went to start arguing. And before I'd be like, no, I'm not tolerating this for you. I said, okay, babe. And he's like, what? And he would say something else, and I said, okay, babe. And he's like, you're not gonna argue back? I said, no. And then I gave him a book, The Husband That Prays for a Wife, right? By Stormy or Martian. It's a really good book. And so I gave it to my husband. I just left it by his nightstand. And he took it and he read it. And one day I was in the kitchen because we were still, we apologized, but we were still not. There was a But he read the book and I was in the kitchen. I will never forget that day. I was preparing something. And all of a sudden he came to me behind me. And he turned around and he got on his knees and he said, I'm really sorry I have not been the husband that I should be, and pray for you. But again, no one's teaching, fathers are not teaching the sons. And because fathers are not there, and mothers are not teaching the daughters. And so it was at that moment that, like you said, something broke. Because we start building this wall, like we're not going to get hurt. We're not going to let you come in. But we think it's supposed to help us, but it's really hurting us. It's hurting our hearts.
But you want to know what's tough is that the role of the husband and the father has been diminished. Not just it's been ripped apart. Society has totally shifted with the same respect. I was having a conversation. I have this conversation around this time of the year all the time because we always talk about Mother's Day compared to Father's Day, and the level of honor that's given on Father's Day is so way less than. And so we say, oh, you know, that's just the way society is. No, but in the house, you know, when you do that, you know, as you know, the kids come home, they got the handprint for the mom and with the hearts on it and all that stuff made. But then in school, they're not given the same extension for the father. And what you're saying is that mommy's valuable and dad is not. And you may not be saying it verbally, but you're saying it in the actions for which we're teaching our children. You affirm that behavior. Right. And so inside the household, the respect for the father has been limited. Granted, man has given that up a little bit as well too.
Oh,
yeah.
So, yes.
But governmentally, now you're going to take me somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Governmentally,
speaking our language.
Governmentally, the attack on the man in the household has been great. For instance, if there is a displaced family, let's say a fire or some war that caused somebody to be homeless, there are no family shelters that gather both the husband, the wife, or there's very few that gathers the husband, the wife, and the children. They rather remove the father and let the mother and the children stay in one place. What does that happen? You've removed the authority from the house. So now this child has only learned how, for the next 6 months to a year, its habits have now learned to only respect the mother, because the mother is now the disciplinary and everything inside that house at that moment in time. It seems small, it seems minute. The family comes back together, but now the father has to work his way back into the position that was rightfully his in the first place. Oh, let's get rid of that. Let's go deeper into the 70s and the 60s, where families were displaced and fathers had to go to other states to be able to find employment, and was removed from their parental place at home, and you know, so it's so many different things.
It's welfare system,
right? Or how the welfare system,
where if a mom and needed services, if she had a male in the house, then and they were all granted in need, he couldn't be in the house. So they used to have to hide.
Even if they were legally married?
Yeah, they used to have to, the home visits that the case managers used to do was to see if there was evidence of a man in the house.
But the reason for it, especially from a marriage standpoint, was because of the poverty line. So the man will go out and get a part-time job, but his part-time job would take them over the poverty line.
Right.
And so they couldn't receive the proper services that was needed in order to be able to get health care and everything for the children. The money they was making was not enough to take care of the family. So what I do is I act like I'm not in the family's life, and the mother's single with the kids. So now when that takes place, now they're really searching heavy to make sure that there's not another person living in this household. So there's so many dynamics and so many different layers to these compound issues that have come up over the years, that now, but here's what I see. I see now men trying to make an effort, more than I've seen before. Young men are willing to get married at certain ages, or at least willing to be a father to a certain degree, but they don't have the tools to understand what relationships should look like. And it's very tough, and not just from a man's standpoint, but from a woman's standpoint. How can I honor you as the head of my house when I've never had a male as the head of my house?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And so I can't honor you when I've never honored a man before you. That's true. My father has never been in my life. So I don't have respect for men on no level. I take care of myself. I do for myself. I just had a conversation with a young lady, and I go through this every year. I said, please take down that post where you're saying Happy Father's Day to me. I get it. You feel like you played mommy and daddy, but you're not.
I don't like that.
That bothers me.
That bothers me too.
That bothers me.
Yeah.
But this isn't credit. This isn't credit. This isn't to discredit those who are being a father. I said no, but it is.
It is.
It is discrediting those who are being a father. I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through with your child's father not being there, and you had to play the role. I honor you for stepping into that place, but let's not change the narrative of what a father should look like, or what a father should be.
There's so much amen here.
Yeah, there's a lot in the dynamics of the family structure. And so now coming into this place of where now I'm married to a woman who had her father in her life.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever his
That's a
challenges was,
blessing.
I'm married to a woman who had a father in her life. I didn't have my father in my life. Not that he didn't want to be in my life, but he died when I was young, and every man that was inside my life was abusive to a certain degree. So I didn't really understand her dynamics of what it was to have a father, you know, in that life. But she had the ability to love me greater than I had the ability to love her. You know?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does, because she understood the relationship of her father in her house, and people don't understand. Even if the father isn't good a lot of times,
Right.
you know what I mean. It's still better than no father at some points as well
That's
too.
true.
And so it's difficult in this day and age when it really comes to marriage. Marriage is challenged from so many different areas. And so now we talk about the fact of a husband not valued, but marriage isn't valued.
Right.
You know what I mean? Marriage is.
So let me ask you about marriage. At what point you had all these children? Did you ever at that point say we need to take time for ourselves, or did you just keep surviving, keep doing, and lose yourself? Let me ask you, Briggitte.
So I started it. I would just leave every 3 months because I needed to just get away, and I wanted to do that with him.
At what point of your marriage?
When in 2010. So when we had Mia.
Okay.
So and that was
like 10 years into the marriage.
Yeah, it's been like 10 years, right? And like 11 years into the marriage, that I realized like I need to find me.
Right.
So I wanted to travel with him, but he was not valuing the same things. So I said, well, I'm gonna just go and I'm gonna travel, and I would leave every 3 months because I knew that I needed that for me.
Because we would go crazy, right?
Right. And then he came. We went somewhere. He started just joining, and started realizing like, oh, I kind of like this. In the beginning, it was kind of uncomfortable, but then when we left out of the country or we left out of the state, he realized, right, because now they're bigger. He realizes like, I want to do this more together, and like right now we're in that redefining point where we have adult children and we're trying to figure out how to be parents of adult children and not be parents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like be the mother, but like the motherhood.
Be a support, right?
Leave the hood and just be the mother.
Right.
Right.
I like that. So and then you know the transitions of our children is like everybody's at different levels and different stages. And then we're realizing, like we were having this conversation with our 2 girls in the house, like because they're like, why you always tell each other, I can't go to you and tell you everything because I know that you're gonna tell dad. I'm like, yeah, because we learned a long time ago that there's no splitting. So we do keep in contact, and everything you tell me, yes, I will tell dad, and everything that you guys tell dad, he'll tell me, and it stays between us. But this is how we're doing. And he said, because at the end of the day, all of you guys are gonna leave, and if there's any friction or discord between our marriage, then what am I left with? So we're teaching the kids like, no, this is our time. Even my 4-year-old, she was like, are you going on another sleepaway? And
girl, the other day too,
right?
They were like, oh, you guys going on a date? Oh,
right,
can I come on?
Right. You guys always go on a date. You guys always do things together, and that's what we're learning now. Like, you know, enjoying
and it's so
life.
important.
Right.
Chumi and I started doing that. So we started doing that. I want to say like after our 10th year, So I would always say, you know, life can't just be about you. I cook, I clean, I do this. And so one of the things, he goes, okay, we're going to do honey. I said, you need to take one day and just make it all about me.
Right.
So he said, okay, we're gonna do honeymoon day Monday. I'll give you a massage. I'll take care of you. It'll be all about you. I said, I don't want no cooking. I don't want no cleaning. You do everything, you know, because I'm just, so we did that for a while. And it was great to just it's not that you want this attention 24/7.
Right. But it's good to have a little pockets
So
of
we
intimacy.
did that for a while, and then we would go on vacation. And then I would take 1 week to myself. He would take a week and go visit his cousin, and then we would take a week together. And then now we want to be together. We want to go away.
We miss each other.
And even today, I said, look, we need to just go for a ride. So he said, okay, get dressed and I'll pick you up. And we went for lunch. We went by the water because he knows I love the water. And it was just like a couple of hours, but it was just him and I, just by the water, just walking.
Right.
You just need to disconnect, even if it's just from your home. You know, you love your home and it's your sacred place, but you need that time with them, you know, being flirtatious. So let me ask you another thing, right? Because for the viewers, whether it's 10 years, 15, 20, 25 years, what keeps that marriage on fire and still going? Because a lot of marriages, they stop taking care of themselves. They start taking care, you know, they lose themselves. They forget about the husband. So what for you, if it does, keeps that marriage connected and on fire?
So we talk, and you know, I like to flirt. So we have kids, so y'all already know what the behavior be like. But we do like spontaneous little things and stuff. Like I remember he used to be in his pastor's meeting, and I would like send him like inappropriate text, and he would be like, "Oh my God, what the heck?" You know what I mean? Or if he's on the pulpit, and I would be in the front pew, and I would just look at him a certain way, kind of throw him off a little bit, you know. So like the Lord said, right. So we just and we're really like, this is like my best friend. Like we really have a good. We like to hang out and laugh. We do that.
Our church members say that they have the freakiest pastors on. We're very open, affectionate. And our kids, why y'all doing that? You know, we try to set that, that standard example. You know, she walking around, I still smack on the behind. Don't let it change. You know, it's what it is. You know what I mean? And you know, we're gonna be together for the rest of our lives. You know, and there's gonna be moments like she said, she will go away with her friends. They will go on a cruise and all that, and I give her space. Like we need space away from each other to make us want to be around each other. Like you know, we don't even like each other sometimes. You probably walking through this door when you like each other. In the car. So there, you know, there's different levels to relationship. You know what I mean? And you have to understand that. We in a relationship, we married, but this is still an individual. They still got their own needs. They still got their own. And you got to be able to respect that. You got to be able to know that she want to go to yoga. She go to yoga. All right, bye. Go kick rocks. All right, I'm going to the studio. I'm going to go hang out there for a little while. And it's good to be able. I'm going to the fight with the guys or whatever the case may be. That space is very important. You got to be able to give each other space. All this clinging and on top of each other, smothering and all that kind of stuff like that.
It dies quick.
Kick rocks. You know,
it dies quick.
That has to do with attachment issues and trauma.
I
know a little bit about that. And it's like those unhealed wounds at a young age. That's how it manifests into your.
But you know, I can't be your healing.
No, exactly.
And this is why it's very important that you know, I tell people it's so hard to do marriage without God. You know what I mean? It's so hard to do it with him. I can't even imagine doing it without him. You know? It's crazy. I just can't. So it really comes to a place where you have to begin to feel okay in you. You know what I'm saying? Like, babe, where you going? I'm out. I deuces. If I'm calling her, it's only because I want to get away from these kids, not because I'm worried about where she at. You know, like, you know, enjoy yourself. Go out, go get a massage, go hang out. Go. But you need me to pay for it. Go ahead. But you know, I'm trying to get my piece too. I mean, going to get my piece. And then we come together, and then we go together. And you know, again, this is what we have to really begin to teach is honesty. You know, I heard T.D. Jakes say this one time. He said, what do you do when your wife asks you or your spouse asks you what's the problem, and you really want to be like, you're the problem. You're irritating me right now. You're bothering me. You know, that's really a healthy answer. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, yo, right? What's up? Hey, you what's up? Like, you just
leave me alone for like 2 minutes, yo.
Well, you know what's funny? Jimmy and I always flirt. I think, I don't know if it's like, and I think that at our, where we go, right? It's so traditional, right?
Right,
so
right.
we're always showing affection, and for them, it's like, you know.
Right.
But what are you teaching your children?
Right.
So when my husband and I first got married, there was this warfare between my husband and I. And then to God be the glory, things changed, right? And then now all of a sudden there's this love, there's this touching, there's the pat on the butt, there's this kissing, there's just flirting and grabbing.
Right.
And my daughter's like, ooh. And my husband says, what do you want to say? What are you going to teach your children? You need to keep that fire going. Because if you don't take care of it, somebody else is going to come right next. They need to see.
Right.
And so my daughter, she appreciates it, I believe, right now. And it's important for people to know you have to do things. You have to be sexy with each other. You have to be cute with each other. You can't like let yourself go and not care. You know, husband needs some things, women need some things. Come together, take your time, you know, together. And I think as pastors, right, there's a certain, I think that one of the things the Lord has told me, we can't just marry people because, oh, I'm in love and we want to get married. Okay, let me tell you what marriage is about.
Right.
Because
it's not all rainbows and cupcakes.
It's not. And so I'm gonna ask the girls, you know, to each ask you a question, and then I want you to answer, you know, what are the 3 things that you think would break a marriage, and what are the 3 things that would make a marriage? But we're gonna ask. We're gonna start with Esi. What are your
each pick a question?
Yeah, pick a question for both of them.
But it's either make or break.
No. No, that's after. You can ask them whatever you want.
Oh, okay. You go first, Esi.
She's the youngest. You go, Barb. You're married.
Okay.
Yeah, she's married. We're not.
Okay. So me ask them a question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. How do you have you ever had to do, like, you know, you were talking about trauma. Have you ever had to do outside of your marriage, like in terms of like your own therapy?
We both in therapy.
We in therapy now. Dealing with.
And how has that has given you breaks?
So I think for me, I think throughout I've had levels of times where I'll be in therapy and then I'm good, and then here's another layer of something else, and then another layer. I think this is your first time in therapy, officially, right? And I think that it brings up a lot of things individually, so I think right now we're in the process, right? Because I think for him being in it now, we're kind of trying to learn to stay connected and be open with each other, but then we're also like irritated with certain things. You know what I mean?
You're dealing with stuff yourself,
right?
And a piggyback question: was it hard for you to like go to therapy, or like some people are like, oh, you know, nah, I'm good. You know, how did you feel at first, or maybe it was something that was, you know, maybe your wife had mentioned it before, but then when was your time where you felt like, okay,
it was always my fault, and then he realized, oh, wait a second.
you know, like it came from you. When did it come from you?
When it came from me.
Right.
When it came from me, when I felt like I was ready. I think a lot of times men won't do things. A lot of times the wife feels she knows everything. She wants to tell you.
Well, we do.
I saw it.
We do.
But would you say, in all honesty, would you say it's pride? Because you're the bishop, you're the head of the house. You know, you're supposed to set an example.
No, because I really didn't feel like I needed therapy. I mean, it would be pride if I felt like I needed therapy, but because she's telling me to go, or somebody else telling me to go, then and I'm like, oh, I'm not going because of these things. It had nothing to do with pride. I just didn't feel like I needed it. I felt like what I was dealing with, or the things that I was dealing with, I could handle, and that's it. That's not pride. That's not yet coming to a place where you realize what you need.
Gotcha.
And when I realize what I need, then I can open up and we can talk about it, and then we can go from there. So I think pride is when you know you need something
and you won't
do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But for a lot of men, a lot of times, you know, we've been taught over the years, going right back, this is generationally,
Right.
you know, you've been taught to handle things as a man on your own and so forth and so on. So it's not right. It's not that you know you don't want that. You just really don't feel like you feel like you can handle it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Do you have a question for Briggitte? You. Me. Yeah.
I think I feel
Yeah,
like I
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was the therapy and
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's
that was the, I'm like, I
Okay.
don't know, because I feel
How
like
about you, Miranda?
Mine's gonna be a parenting question. How do you navigate raising your children as a pastor and a pastor's wife in a God-centered way in the world that we're living in that seems like it's very moving towards a very antichrist sort of world that we're living in?
So-
How do you
So we
guys
don't
navigate
shield
that?
our kids, right? We just try to teach them the principles.
These kids,
These kids.
we
What?
don't show these kids.
Oh, the older ones, we were very religious and putting a lot
yeah.
of pressure on
Yeah.
them.
That turned them away.
And that
Expectations.
did turn them away,
Okay.
right? But then with these kids, we learned that it really is not about what they're exposed to out there. If we are connecting with them at home and they see how we live, not just what we're preaching,
Right.
then it's gonna organically kind of happen. So like Genesis, she's like the perfect example of that. And she is very in tune with the Lord. She has a very strong spirit of discernment and she's gifted. And in the world, she is like in school and stuff, she knows what is right and what I shouldn't do. Like that's not, you know, for me, that's not good. But so she's not so easily influenced. And even when she tried, the Lord will always close the door and she will come back and say, you guys, you know, you cursed me because I don't have a boyfriend and this and that. And it's not, but she's realizing that God has her covered.
Yeah.
And she sees what is out there and how valuable she is. So that's where she
That's
kind of is
awesome.
now. And the little ones, you know, they're just kind of growing into that. But it was very difficult to like figure out what's the best way to parent.
Yeah.
So my answer to that question is, as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. Because I think the world is changing,
Right,
and us as parents,
right,
our godly principles are the same.
right.
You know what I mean? But how we grow in the process of
Right.
administrating those godly principles,
Mm-hmm.
we have to have wisdom and be wise.
Right.
Because we have to realize our kids are in school almost as much as they are home
Mhm.
or in different environments.
Right.
So we have to understand how to be able to deal with them, you know, where they are. It's like she said, not really shield them from it, but to educate them and kind of teach them about it. Like, you know, we just have some major issues.
Yeah.
So this is a tough society, but we must remember that it's not tougher than God.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And
Amen.
and love covers a multitude of sins. It covers a multitude of challenges and battles, and that's really the answer. It's cliche-ish,
Right.
But
but at
it's
the end
the
of the day,
truth.
it's the truth.
Yeah, but we teach our kids that they're individuals, unique individuals, and you know, you may not want to grow up to be a pastor or be, you know, take a part in the church.
My youngest son is like,
Right,
I'm gonna be like my dad.
right,
I want to be a pastor.
right,
And you know, for me, that's like
right,
that's big. You know what I
right,
mean? Because you know you have challenges with your older kids that
right,
their declaration isn't the same.
right,
You know what I mean? So it's it's tough, but you learn as you go.
The only thing I want to just slightly add to that is that what I think you're saying is something that I've more recently come to terms with. It's not about being a micromanaging Christian mom.
Right,
More
right.
than it's like, you know, when she brings to me Elsa
Right,
from Frozen and
right,
she's
right.
like waving a magic wand and
Right,
it's right,
right.
like, that's witchcraft.
Yeah, right,
Shut up.
right,
Like, shut up, that's witchcraft. Like,
right,
and I was
Right,
really,
right,
I got like
right,
borderline legalistic. She's three,
Right,
and I was
right.
like,
Right.
Little Mermaid. Nope,
Listen,
it's like an
that's
octopus
what
lady.
my older two, they're like,
They're like, you letting these kids watch? You let us
Mia
watch
has
this.
Pokemon cards.
Right,
Like, because my son is like, I couldn't watch Pokemon.
right.
Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, like that chant in the beginning.
The
We
Mickey Mouse
made
Clubhouse.
Amina's birthday, her first birthday, because she was obsessed with Minnie Mouse. So it was a Mickey Mouse party, and Debbie was like, "What? You had me shut off Minnie Mouse when I was younger, and now this is like too fluid for me. Like I don't even get what's going on."
So
You know?
I think that it's funny because I am very like,
Right?
Right.
but then a friend, a Christian mom, said
Right.
to me, she goes, "How about," she goes, "certain things that you feel
Right,
strong in
right,
your
right,
spirit,
right,
go
right.
with it." She's like, "But if she goes to her friend's house and she comes home and tells you she watched The Little Mermaid, why not
Right.
have a conversation with
About
her
The Little
Right,
Mermaid.
right.
about The Little Mermaid?" And as she gets older, like she
Yeah,
might
yeah.
have saw the movie that you
Right,
didn't want her
right,
to see,
right.
even though it was a Disney movie, and she might come
Right.
home and tell you about it and ask her questions. Really,
Right.
really elicit conversation.
Yeah.
And also ask questions that lead to how does this or not
Right.
align?
Right.
How does this align with
Right.
the Bible? Or how does
Point
it
them
not?
to
Right.
the answer.
Exactly.
And that approach
Is
seems
so much.
it,
Right.
it like
You
soothes
empower
my
them.
spirit. too.
Right. Right.
But you empower them.
Yeah.
Here's what I learned as a pastor: a mistake is not necessarily a mistake, as much as it is as an opportunity
To learn.
to teach.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mhm.
So when I have people inside the ministry who make mistakes, I don't just jump down their throat because
Right,
they made
right.
a mistake. They just gave me an opportunity to be their pastor.
Right. Right.
Same thing with our kids. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When they go into these areas, we have to realize, okay, they just gave me an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Like
to do
before,
that.
we're like, "You're grounded.
Right.
Take the car away.
I have to.
What in the world are you thinking?" And then it's like, oh my
I
God.
get a chance, but now you get a chance to be.
I'm the same way. I'm like, okay, I need to tone myself down. Calm down, girl.
And it does. It soothes your spirit a little bit.
Right.
It does.
It does, because before the micromanagement, like I would be up at night, be like, "Well, she's going to a birthday party, her
Right.
first birthday party,
Right.
and we're going to the movies."
Right.
And
Right.
what
Right.
movie are they going to put on? And they're Christian, so it was
Right,
like it
right,
can't
right.
be too bad. But it was like the Iron Giant. I'm like,
Right,
wait,
right.
what's symbolic behind? I'm like,
Right. Chill. It's just
Right.
leave, homie.
because
That
and
was
then
me.
we had that
That was
conversation
me
with
all
that
day.
mom,
Yeah.
and she said, she goes, "Listen, it's way
That was
easier
me.
to
Right,
talk
right.
to your kids." And again, when you feel really strong about something,
Right. Right.
you know,
Yeah,
use
you
that
cut it.
conviction.
You
But
cut
so
Right,
because
right.
otherwise, it makes you anxious.
I know.
I'd rather them have the
Right.
situation with me than have the situation without me.
Mm.
If they have the situation with me, then I can help mold that situation.
Right.
If they have the situation outside of me, they say, "Oh, my parents never taught me this."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And somebody else will
And somebody else will.
have a different answer for them.
Right.
I'm
And
glad I
then you're
asked
like,
that.
Right.
I think that we need to have another subject about parenting
Right.
children
No,
with
I
different
agree.
with other couples,
I
right?
think
Because
that'd be
everyone
Right. Right.
has a different perception.
I'm a way different father
I
today
know.
than I
Then
was.
And that's
10 years
a
ago.
beautiful thing.
It would
right?
be cool to have you guys back for parenting to
Mhm.
talk
Right,
about
right.
your first parenting
Oh my
for your
gosh,
older, and then
right.
your second form of parenting for your
Right.
younger.
Right.
Because I came from a Catholic legalistic mother that went like way
Right.
like liberal with the other
Right,
two. And I was
right,
like, "Ah."
Like what happened,
But
right?
she needed to come a little bit in the middle.
Right.
So I was like, what happened here? Where's the godly principles? But
Do you ever apologize to your children when you
All the
believe in your okay? Good.
So yeah, we do.
We
We
do.
actually just had that conversation with
Our
my
older kids.
with the older and my daughter. She's home from school and was kind of struggling with the type of parent that I am now. So instead of her just expressing that, she just got very aggressive and was yelling at me and being very upset. So I paused her where before I probably would have like
Yeah, the way you
smacked
responded
her
was
and, right.
different.
I
than a
paused her.
reaction.
I'm like, and because the other kids are like, why is she yelling?
Right.
Are you guys arguing? That's the 4-year-old. Debbie, are you okay? And she's like, I'm like, I'm just gonna pause you.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing you because your tone is way up here. So let's continue this conversation when you're not so heightened, because it just seems to me like you're really upset and I'm just not listening to you because I feel like you're attacking me. So it wasn't until last night that she says, you know, I just really want to apologize. I just didn't know how to express that. I just don't understand the type of parent that you are because I keep remembering X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, hi, I'm Briggitte, and I'm your mom. I'm 42 years old, and it's time for you to create a new narrative and get to learn me. Because I was 18, I was 20, I was 25, but now I'm a whole adult,
Right, yeah.
and I'm not that person anymore. So
That's powerful.
you have to forgive me for what I did. I apologize if I was too much, if I was too aggressive, if I was too critical, but that's not who I am today. And I just want to be
powerful.
respectful
My bad.
for that.
Right?
Like I
My
can't
bad.
take that
I can't
back.
take it back. I can't go back.
But I'm not going to stay in bondage to that either.
You
Right.
can you
You
can
know?
enjoy this new me if
Right,
you want, or
right.
you can just stay where you at.
And you know, I went through that with my
Right,
daughter.
right.
I went through a shift with my daughter, and I had to apologize. And God showed me so much stuff. And sometimes, as parents, we have had so much pain suppressed
Right.
that we can't. Even though we think we're hearing our kids, but we're not listening
Right,
because
right.
our pain is blocking
Right,
them,
That's
right.
good.
and we kind of block them. Right? We can't really. We hear them, but we're not listening.
Right.
Because all we come back to is our pain.
Right.
And Esi, I want to give you the opportunity to ask them questions.
It's your turn now.
Well, so
I know, Avery.
you did mention that when Genesis was born, that was the new beginning.
Right.
So my question pertaining to that is, during that process of growing in the Lord and working on your marriage, were there times where one of you wanted to just give up? And then during those times, what did you do to fix that situation?
Right. So, we always be feeling like giving up. You know what I mean? Like that. Well,
As far as the marriage goes,
Yeah, everything.
Right. Like
all
it
your
just
commitments.
right because it just gets so overwhelming. But it's important to like stay focused to what, not to engage in that feeling. Because we're gonna feel a whole lot of things in this body, in this flesh, but really it's a matter of just taking that space to just pause, put yourself on pause, and allow God to just work through whatever emotions it is. Like I like to write, so I journal all my downloads. Anything that I get download, I'll be in the shower, in the bathroom, and I'll get a download and just write pages and pages, because that's kind of like what I'm processing. And instead of being impulsive and just, because I was good for that, and like just responding with my mouth and not even caring how people feel. That's the environment that I grew up in. So for me, in order for me not to react, but also to do something with this feeling, I process it through writing. So I'm not just walking out. You know what I mean? Even though probably in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I'm so over it. I'm so done. I felt like that on Tuesday, to be honest, after my daughter was like yelling. I sat on my porch and I just cried because I felt like, if it ain't this person, it's that person, feeling the same way. I'm getting attacked from this side, and then you just get tired. Like, what? You know what I mean? But in that, I'm not just gonna, disconnect from what God has given me, my blessings. I'm not leaving this house I just moved into a couple of months ago. I'm staying in this house. So it just really is a matter of finding what coping technique is going to help you tolerate the things that you're going through. And God's grace always kind of comes and abides every time you give him access. But if you don't give him access, then you're going to get what you get, and you don't get upset.
And that's important. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bishop.
So I'll answer this question. Because I've really been dealing with this love thing as of late, right? So here's how I see love right now at this stage of my life. When someone falls, they fall what? They fall in love, right? So a lot of times we say love is in us, which it is. The capabilities and the ability to love is in us. From the foundation of the earth, when God created us, he created us with the ability to love, but he also created us with the ability to hate. And so the ability to love is inside of me, but I cannot access that ability to love inside of me unless I make a decision to love. Making the decision to love
Right.
puts me in a position to be in love.
Right.
All this love at first sight stuff and all that kind of stuff like that.
That's not love.
That's not love.
I
It's
think
not love.
that's
Yeah, it's
fleshly,
both.
carnal.
Right, you're right.
Right,
It's infatuation.
Love.
It's lust. It's those things. But when we talk about the true love that we're talking about,
Right.
being in love, that is a decision
Yes.
to make. It is a job to work at. When with my kids, it's a choice. With my wife, it's a choice. With God, it is a choice. All these things are a choice to love. And in order to be able to love that thing, I have to step into that relationship. So I fell into this relationship because of the decision that I made. I fell in love with this because I made a decision to love this. Me and my wife was having a conversation about a baby. When a baby
Another one? Just kidding.
No.
a baby, the love
I'll leave then.
God's design for, we always say a child can never love the parent like the parent loves the child, right? The reason being is because the design is for one day for the child to get up and walk away from the parent, not for the parent to walk away from the child.
Right.
That's why the parent is always supposed to, doesn't always happen that way, pass away before the child does. If you ever met a parent whose child passed away, they're tormented because of the love that they had from that baby coming from inside of them out. A baby learns to love their parent by the exercise. God created this baby to have a need that this parent will fulfill, which will make the connection. Why they say if you lay the baby on your chest, bare chest, it creates a warmth. It creates a connection. You're teaching this baby love and connection. You're feeding them because she has a need. The baby has a need. They can't feed themselves. So the person who's feeding them, they automatically begin to gain this connection. There's a love that grows from it. Most people think, a baby just comes out loving their parents. No, the need created and the need fulfilled teaches that child what love looks like. So you can teach the child wrong love, unhealthy love, or you can teach that child a righteous love, which is an unconditional love that a parent gives. I hate the fact that you just crapped in that diaper and I got to change it, but I made up in my mind to unconditionally love you. So I'm going to change your diaper through your crap. That is still a lesson for that baby. That baby getting up in the middle of the night, me going to feed. It's a lesson for that baby. What am I saying here? I'm saying that in order to truly be able to love someone, you have to make the commitment in here and in here to be able to be in love. That in love is a relationship that is formed. We have the decision to love God, right? We love him because he first loved us. It is the decision. It is the wife's decision to love her husband. It is the husband's decision to love his wife. It is the husband and the mother's decision to love their children. These are conscious thoughts that are made. So when the decision comes up to leave, you have to remind yourself of what you stepped into. What you stepped into was a relationship of love. And that love is unconditional. Unconditional, agape, meaning charity. Charity means I'm giving it to you without expecting anything in return. And so regardless of what you give me out of what I'm giving you, I can't hold this against you because I made a decision to love you with that unconditional love.
And to honor the vows. I think people don't honor them or take it serious anymore. It's so easy to get a divorce.
Yes.
Right.
So I know you have to leave, and we passed, but I'm sure everyone's enjoying this. This is really good, and a blessing. It's an
Very big
it's educating
I
all of
learned a
us,
lot.
right? Because no matter where we're at, we're always learning. No matter how long we've been married, how long we've been single, we're just growing, learning together. What would be the 3 things that would break a marriage and the 3 things that would make the marriage?
3 things that would break lack of trust, neglect, and trust, neglect, and what do you think?
Go do it.
Oh my God. Lack of trust, neglect, and
Well, technically, the two shall become one. So
There you go, Misha.
So
His 3. He's got his 3.
I don't.
Okay, so what's yours?
What's the third one?
I don't, because I don't think that there's anything that should break it.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Like I can give you 3 reasons, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Be lied to. Well, guess what? That's happened in our relationship.
Right,
Lack of trust. That happened too. Infidelity. That happened too.
right.
It's a condition to make up your mind when when I came back in and I said
that was a trick question.
I'm not leaving. So there are 3 things that that we can make a condition on
Right,
making it break. But-
Okay.
I think abuse could be one.
right.
Yeah.
Abuse.
Well, I guess, but
Physical.
right.
But if you're with a narcissist,
And
a covert
emotional
abuser,
right.
and he's draining that,
yeah.
there's
Right,
gotta
there's
be
also
either
that.
Yeah,
therapy
but
or
So I feel like abuse.
I believe separation.
Abuse.
Right.
See, it's this. We have this conversation all
Right,
the time.
all the time.
Oh, this is a
Because I'm like,
yeah.
listen.
It's like if they're abusing you, out.
Right.
I agree with that. Nobody needs to be in a position of where
The emotional
they're
abuse
emotionally
is just as bad as
abused
physical
or
abuse.
physically
Psychologically,
or physically
mentally, and
abused.
emotionally, it's just as bad as the,
Right.
the
But
physical.
But remember we was having a conversation in the beginning about our marriage, and I was like, every time I would come up like, I can leave, you can go, we can go. That's still a form of abuse
Right,
on a
right,
level,
That's
right?
like a threat,
Right, because it's a
intimidation.
threat. It's
Right.
like
That's a
it's
manipulation.
what,
Yeah.
no matter how
All
much
the
you
time.
believe it,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for me, honestly, it wasn't manipulation. For me, it wasn't really a threat. I meant it. You know what I mean? But what it was for me was a wall.
Right.
It was my protective
Right.
mechanism.
Mhm.
You understand? I didn't really understand what it was saying, what it was doing
Yeah.
to her.
Right.
For me, it was just like, oh, this is what this is going to end up like, because I have abandonment issues. You know what I mean? My
That's
mother
what I
left me.
was
Right.
gonna say.
Yeah, my
I
mother
had
left
to
me in my
too.
shelter in the
Yeah.
shelter by myself when I was 12 years old. So for me to say, yo, I'm out, that was really me. That was my mechanism of self-defense.
Protecting you before
Protecting
she
men.
leaves you.
Before,
Right.
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 So when people start talking about, oh, when conflict starts coming up, that was just my escape. That's how I'm leaving. That's how
Right.
I'm leaving. I didn't mean it to
Yeah.
be in a way to threaten her.
Right.
It came out that way, but for me it was like, yo, that's just, but when I made up in my mind that there was a way out, I took that way out.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mhm.
So for me, I don't even want to think about a way out,
Okay.
Right.
because if I think about the way out, I'll manifest that way out.
Right.
I'll never tell anybody to stay in a relationship that's abusive and they're getting beat up and all that kind of stuff like that. But when you ask me a question of, is there a way, give me 3 things of what would end it, I can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
Because if I comprehend it, now it becomes a thought pattern that plays in my mind.
Right.
So I have to cast that down.
Consideration.
Yeah,
That's
it comes to
good.
consideration.
That was good.
Yeah.
That's
I
good.
gotta come right back like,
That was her intention with that question.
right.
No. That's good for the viewers, because a lot of times
That's true.
we want to say, you know what, I wouldn't tolerate XYZ. These are the do's and the don'ts. This is
Right,
what's
right.
tolerated. This is what's not tolerated.
Now, if you ask me what hurts a marriage,
Hurts a
Right,
marriage.
that's
right.
different.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
What hurts a marriage is the very things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
The abuse, the
Right.
what makes it difficult to be
Right.
inside of a marriage is the abuse, the lack of
Right,
trust, and the neglect, the lies,
Right.
financial issues, all of these
Right,
things
right.
that come up. These things are real,
Mhm.
right? But these are also things that can be healed.
Right. I mean, granted, there was things that I had. I would never do this. I would never do that. I would never.
Right.
And then the never came to pass,
Right,
and it was like, wow.
Yeah, we had a
And then-
we had a situation recently that
right
probably would have
in
been like
August, right? That it was like,
the end
oh
all,
my God,
say all.
Right.
Like, this. If there was a reason to be gone,
right,
That would be it.
oh, hands down.
right,
Hands down, like I'm out. Like this is, you know what I mean? And when I look back over it, honestly, there was moments where I had to take space
Right.
But for me, it was never a thought like,
Right.
leave for what? I got 7 kids. Where the heck I'm going?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? This,
And then here comes God's grace
committed.
again.
You all in. You all in.
God's grace again, just like a blanket over our
Yeah.
marriage. Like,
Amen.
listen, there's grace even in this.
You know what God put together, no man can
Shall
separate.
set apart.
Right.
that's even us.
Right.
See, when we start putting conditions on marriage, then we have to ask God. You know, we was watching this, and if you've never seen this video, get it. It's an excellent. It's called The Art of Marriage, right?
Order.
The art
of
The Art of Marriage is
Art of
beautiful.
Marriage.
We get ready to do it
I'm
again
gonna
with some
check
marriage
that
couples.
Right.
Some
Yeah,
marriage
it's a
couples.
movie.
It's like a video,
it's a
and it's like
series, but it's
you know,
based
come with
on
a
like
book,
real
and we-
people
right, it's dope.
and
So remember
It's
that
great.
the art of marriage.
We're
And
actually-
write
Art
the-
of marriage.
We're actually
marriage.
going to be having a marriage gathering.
conference group that's going to
Yeah,
include that. So the lady's like, oh, I'm going through it, blah, blah. And she said, and God came to her and said, do you believe I can do all things?
Right.
And she was like, yeah, I believe you can do all things. You know what I mean? You believe I can heal cancer? Yes. You believe I can do this? Yes. You believe, oh, yes, God, you can do all things. Then why don't you believe I can heal your marriage?
Right.
What is it that's so big in your marriage that's bigger than who I am?
Right.
Like, what's so big? I understand we got conditions. The Bible gives us an exit, right? But then God asks us a question. What is it in your marriage that is so big that I can't heal?
Right.
That I can't heal? God, I can't heal it. Nothing.
Right.
There's nothing that big, God, that you can't heal.
Right.
But what glasses are we wearing?
Right.
Right.
Are we wearing the glasses of the community in the world?
Right.
Or are we
Right.
wearing the glasses that God has placed on us? But belong.
He's preaching here tonight.
Yeah,
I want you to
I gotta go.
You know, like when we preach at church,
We
we're
need
doing
him 10 more minutes.
Right.
But belong
We can be here all night. I know
belong
you
is
gotta go.
going to curse Israel. As he's going to curse Israel, he's on his donkey. The donkey sees the angel in front of him. Balaam, who is the prophet, this great prophet, wasn't the prophet of God, by the way, but he was a prophet. His gift was still a gift. He does not see the angel in front of him with the sword and ready to cut his head off from on to put a curse on the people of Israel. He's whipping
The poor donkey.
the donkey. This is a relationship, by the way. It's not a marriage, but it's a relationship. Him and the donkey. And he's whipping this donkey. He's like, yo, go and go. And the donkey is like, yo, you don't see that I'm trying to save your life. You don't see how much I love you. You don't see how much I care for you. You don't see how much I'm trying to protect you. I can see God. I can see the direction. And even though I'm being beat right now, I'm not moving. That was abuse. What he was doing to this donkey.
That's so good.
Until God reveals himself. Again, this isn't a message of stay in a place of abuse, but it is a message in stay in God's eyesight, stay in God's view. See what it is that you can see. I don't care what's going on in my life. If something happened ever that it caused me and her to separate, you know what I mean? I'm still praying for her.
Right.
You understand? And I'm still trying to see how we can reconcile, we can do whatever it takes, because my mindset is that God, I know I'm not perfect. Listen, I'm to be honest with you, in a lot of areas I was the worst of the worst. And if you got grace for me, how can I not have grace for her? And vice versa. Sometimes you see something, like you were saying, you see something for the person who you love that they can't see for themselves.
Right.
And you can make an excuse to jump off the boat, or you can make an excuse to paddle and tread water to make sure that this boat doesn't sink until we can find a way to patch it.
Right.
No marriage is perfect. No wife is perfect. No husband is perfect. No child is perfect. No dog is perfect. Nothing's
donkey.
perfect. The donkey isn't perfect. The person riding the donkey isn't perfect. But God's love for us is perfect. And so if God is the God that we say that he is, then we have to believe him to do what we feel is impossible.
Exactly.
And that's really the key to keeping a marriage.
Right.
I can give you 3 things in the midst of that, but that one thing right there, that
That
thing
was
right
all.
there.
That was all
is-
encompassing.
is-
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
I gotta come listen to him.
Yeah. We gotta
Um,
come see
I
you.
want to thank you, and you know, it's true, because if you would have told me 15, 16 years ago that my husband and I would be where we are today, I would
Blow
be
your
like,
mind.
there's no way.
You're
Same with me.
Right.
Because I used to
Yeah.
say this was not God that put us together, that was the devil. And I used to say it all the time. This wasn't God, this was Satan. And I used to say, but God, if you love me, you wouldn't have me go through this. And God would say, this is for my glory.
Mm-hmm.
This is for my glory.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I finally accepted it and I just gave it to God that I said, okay, your will be done. You know, and he would say, change your prayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Don't make it, change him, do this.
Change
God,
it.
change
Yes,
me.
right,
Yeah.
Help me see him
Yes.
the way you do. Because God would tell me, that's my son.
Right.
And I'd be like, he don't even read the Bible. He don't even want to give you time, you know, judgment critical.
Right,
God
right.
dealt with me about a lot of stuff.
Right.
Praying for somebody warms your heart. Not praying for what you want them to do.
Right.
Just praying for them for the sake of loving them.
Exactly.
I love what you said. You know, I was like, God, you didn't put this together. Satan put this together. And you wanna know what's funny? Sometimes I really believe that we make the wrong choices sometimes,
Oh yeah.
right? But all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and call according to His
Amen.
purpose.
Amen.
And so even the mistakes that we make, God still uses it for His good.
Yeah.
But in my case, with this one, God chose him
You better believe it.
over and over and over. This is it. And I'd be like, you're crazy. There's no way. He's ghetto. He's this. No, this can't be.
I love what she said.
But it was true. We were at church and he said, here's the man I promised you. I'm like, there's no way. This is a joke, right? But God can do all
love you.
things.
Amen.
To God be the glory. I want
That's
to
my
thank you
so much.
Yeah, that
for
was
joining
amazing.
us.
That was amazing.
I know that it blessed the
amazing.
girls.
Yes.
Thank you.
We all won. We won.
This might have been my favorite one.
See?
I love it.
I mean, I think it better and better. but
Right,
this
right,
one-
But we pray that this has blessed you, that it will make a difference in your marriage, that you will learn from it, that you will grow from it. Next week, we're going to have another guest speaker. And so, Bishop and First Lady, we thank you. We
Thank
love
you
you.
so
We're so
much.
glad.
Thank you for
And
having
thank
us.
you for having us and sharing the truth, real, raw, and
Real,
transparent,
raw,
right? Because
and
that's what we're all about. We're
transparent.
not trying to be cute. We're
Right.
trying to be real. So if you have plans on getting married, maybe you
Right.
want to go some counseling. We need some counseling before we get married. Because we
Right.
want to make
Yeah.
it all pretty and
Pre-marriage
cute.
counseling.
Right.
Premarital
Yeah, but you
counseling.
got to change. You said we're not trying to be real. No, we're not trying to be cute. We're trying to be real. But the real is we are cute.
Yeah.
Like that.
We're real cute right now.
Real cute.
So you're cute. So thank you for joining
Thank
us. Share and keep sharing because someone needs to hear it. And we
Amen.
will see you next week. I am Michelle.
Briggitte.
Rhasheen.
Mira.
Or
And I'm Esi.
And
Yes.
together
We are one.
Have a good night. God bless you and have a great weekend.
God
Bye-bye.
bless.
that was
I learned a lot.
I learned a lot too.